It's December 2021. Spider-Man: No Way Home has just released in theaters and everyone is loving it. But then something starts to change a few months after the film's release. The narrative around the movie was different. Fans were revisiting the film, and some people were beginning to think that, in hindsight, No Way Home was actually a lazy, cheap, nonsensical, sloppily made plot hole written, nostalgia-filled cast grab, designed to make its audience clap like seals as it bounces from cameo to cameo, leading to the eventual destruction of cinema. So what's the actual truth here? Does No Way Home get worse every time you watch it? Well,
that's a little complicated.
When I first watched No Way Home, I remember really liking the entire film from start to finish. But upon rewatch, it's become clear to me that the first half of this film is significantly weaker than I remember. And I think that really comes down to one primary reason: novelty.
Hello, Peter.
For me, the first half of No Way Home was definitely carried by just how cool and exciting it was to see. The return of so many familiar faces, the return of Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Electro, Sandman, Lizard. We even got a little Daredevil in there. Even though the first half doesn't have the emotional stakes and weight that the film eventually gets to in the second half, it was still able to get by on the thrills of its novelty.
God, this is so cool.
Here's the thing about novelty: it gets old. For example, when I watched Doctor Strange 2 for the first time when John Krasinski showed up as Mr. Fantastic, I literally yelled, "No!" I don't even know why I was so excited. I think I was just shocked that they actually did the fan cast that everyone was talking about. But then, I watched Doctor Strange 2 again just a couple weeks ago, and when John Krasinski showed up, guess what I felt? Nothing. In that way, No Way Home is definitely in a similar boat. With the novelty removed, I kind of find myself just waiting to get to the second half, as the story here, similar to the first two films in his trilogy, feels pretty lightweight. When it comes to the emotions and sincerity, something that interestingly enough was never an issue for the Tobey and Andrew films, regardless of their flaws. While I think a lot of people initially let some of the flaws of this movie slide, and with the nostalgia glasses now firmly removed, there's some things that definitely stick out as not the best. For starters, the setup for this film makes no sense. The basic premise here is that Peter Parker can get into college, so the game plan is to try and brainwash the entire world. Then the spell goes wrong because for some reason, these two goofballs don't discuss how the spell works before casting it. And on top of that, somehow this spell going wrong is so damaging that it's able to break open the multiverse. I'm sorry, what? This whole thing forces these guys to act completely out of character and makes literally no sense whatsoever. And it's frustrating because what it leads to is pretty awesome. But how we get there is just kind of stupid.
That you didn't even think to plead your case with them first before you asked me to brainwash the entire world?
The film incorporates the returning villains into the narrative. Their roles in this movie could have been just as cameos for the audience to marvel. But instead, the movie finds a way to fit them into the character arc of Tom Holland's Peter Parker by focusing on the fact that many of them are going to die as soon as they get sent back to their own universe. They actually become integral to Peter's journey of learning. With great power comes great responsibility. He has the power, and in this movie, giving them a second chance is his responsibility. Now let's talk about the second half of this film. As already mentioned, this is where the emotional stakes and weight really get to a level that we truly hadn't yet seen in any of the Tom Holland Spider-Man films, and it's why, for the most part, this half of the film has definitely aged better than the first, because even with the novelty of seeing Obi and Andrew again now gone at its core, the story here is just a really compelling character arc and struggle for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. The death of Aunt May and Peter's emotional journey that follows is truly great stuff. Also, just seeing Goblin be Goblin is pretty awesome. Now, without question, the scene that got the biggest reaction in theaters was the return of Tobey and Andrew. But in retrospect, I actually think the highlight of their arrivals is what comes next. Tobey and Andrew coming through the portals is cool, don't get me wrong. But once you know that it happens, it never quite hits you as hard as it did the first time. The next scene, however, is a perfect example of what is the three Spider-Man standing on. The roof together talking about death grief and dealing with loss absolutely holds up.
My Uncle Ben was killed. It was my fault.
I lost Gwen. She was my MJ.
This scene is just as good on your 10th viewing of the film as it was on the first because it's not built on novelty. It's simply great writing and character work. Instead of just treating these older Spider-Man as spectacles for the audience to clap and cheer at, the movie sets them up as older brother figures, and they're pivotal in helping to guide this younger version of themselves on his journey. But with all that being said, it's not perfect. Take the scene at the Statue of Liberty where the three Spider-Man stand around talking about their powers and what villains they fought and just generally goofing around.
Yeah, that's good.
On rewatch, I didn't feel like it really held up all that well. Like, this scene is pure fan service, and when viewed in isolation can be a lot of fun. But in the context of the movie, I'm not sure it really fits like the scene played very well in theaters. Because again, just seeing the three of them on screen together was so fresh and exciting. But on rewatch, this whole conversation just feels totally out of place. This kid's aunt, basically, his mother, just died. And ever since then, the film has been in this pretty somber, emotional, serious state. And then we have this scene which feels more like a parody of these guys rather than how they would actually be talking to each other in such a situation.
You're amazing. Just to take it in for a minute.
Yeah, I can take it in. No, I can take it in.
You are amazing.
I can take it in.
You are amazing.
Thank you.
Like, does it just come out of your wrists, or does it come out of anywhere else?
It feels more like a bonus deleted scene, and when revisiting the film, I kept thinking that perhaps it shouldn't have been in here, but to keep playing devil's advocate with myself, the movie also offers some more genuinely great moments that do hold up for Andrew and Tobey. Like, the scene of Andrew catching MJ is more than just fan service, and it really works on multiple levels. It works as a form of redemption for him, not being able to save Gwen all those years ago. And it also fulfills his role in this story by preventing this other version of himself from having to experience the same loss.
I just don't want you to end up like me.
And for Tobey, getting to stop Tom from murdering Goblin is another great, satisfying choice. It's a full circle moment as he's finally able to save Norman, something he wasn't able to do in his universe, and he prevents the other version of himself from committing the same mistake that he made.
I hunted down the man who I thought did it. I wanted him dead. I got what I wanted. It didn't make it better.
And so all of this has aged very well, but you know what hasn't? The final spell. Now, when the movie first came out, I kept trying to find ways to justify this and make it work. But in reality, it just doesn't. Seemingly, Doctor Strange cannot cast a spell to make everyone forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but he can cast a spell to just make them forget Peter Parker. Altogether, how does that make any sense? And it's frustrating because, once again, just like the setup for this movie, it's kind of nonsensical, but what it leads to is pretty awesome. By way of this spell, the movie basically resets MCU Spider-Man. He's all by himself in a little apartment, ready to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man that we know and love. His sacrifice at the end of this movie is one of the most Spider-Man things that Spider-Man has ever done on film. And in case you're wondering, yes, this absolutely holds up. I mean, as long as they don't have him regress in Spider-Man 4, that is. But those are just my thoughts on No Way Home. Let me know yours down in the comments and subscribe to the channel.